All right. Welcome to the Adventures of Livestream. Today we're going to be doing a beginner's guide on staves. So you want to be a monk. Now, I'm assuming that if you're looking up this build, that you've either been ganked by someone using a double-bladed staff, or you've just maybe just interested in the quarterstaff in general. I've got 5 sweet builds for you guys, and I'm going to start off with the 2 staves we're not going to be covering today because honestly, the abilities on these staves just aren't really that great. We'll go ahead and cover them really quick. This first one here is the Staff of Balance. Now, you can use whatever you want if you decide to use this, but honestly, it's because the E is not very effective. It does cost 20% of your energy, and it's just a toggle. And I'll quickly let you guys see what it looks like. It's an interesting looking build. You're immune to healing, so you cannot be healed while this is going on, and anything within inside your rock field, if you will be slowed. It's an interesting build, but there's just not really been a call for it yet. So maybe in the future, something will change, but as of right now, it's just not that great. Next here, we've got the Black Monk Staff. The Black Monk Staff, also one of those builds that no one's just really come up with any way to use it, and that's because the E is channeled. Right now, it does say uninterruptible, but if you do get knocked back, it seems to interrupt it. I don't understand how that works. I tried to play around with this staff. I thought maybe this would be a really good staff for dungeons and something like that, and I wanted to be able to find you guys a build that would actually be good for dungeons, but unfortunately this one just did not make the cut. It's an interesting looking E, where you throw your weapon on the ground and you keep channeling, and that's kind of the hard part. You have to keep channeling. So if something happens and you need to move, you'll break the channel. So you do have to stay still, because as soon as you move, you cancel it. So again, these are the 2 stabs that just aren't going to be making the cut today. But for that though, I've still got you 5 cool builds out of the 4 stabs we will be talking about. And those are going to be the quarterstaff, the double-bladed staff. I've got 2 builds for you there. I've got you a soul scythe build, and then the ironclad. And each one of these has its own purpose in the game. So, if you're going to be playing stabs, you're going to want to use the right staff for the right occasion, just like with all other weapons. Some will be better for one thing than they will for the other. We're going to start out with the build that is good for dungeons, right? Like, you want to get out there, you're new to the game, you want to do some solo dungeons and things, and this is the build that I think is actually really decent for solo dungeons. Alright, so right off the bat, we're not going to be taking cartwheel, and when you first start, you're not going to have cartwheel. You're going to have to get to like level 3 before you can get cartwheel. That won't take you a long time, but we're going to be using concussive blow. Now, that's just for the damage. We want the damage. You're not worried about like extreme mobility in the dungeons. We just want to be able to kill things and go from there. So we've got empowered slam on the W. Now, I know some of you are going to be like, why not stun run? Stun run doesn't do any extra damage, so we're going to be using empowered slam. And then you have separator, which is a pretty cool ability. You'll probably be familiar with this because it's on the tier 3. So as you're leveling up your stabs to be able to use the others, you'll have to play with separator at some point or another. And it's not a horrible staff. I actually quite enjoyed this build when I was going through dungeons, and at the end of this, I'll show you guys a little clip here of this build in action. So on the passives, when you first start, the only passive you're going to have is every 5 normal attacks stuns your enemy. If you can time that right, you can use that to switch over to a caster or something like that, interrupt a spell, and that's really sweet. Every normal attack can also restore energy as you get that one. And then you get the life leech, which is 15% of your normal attacks is life steal, and that's not horrible either. It is life steal, not just you gain life. So 15% you'll be pulling that life off of your opponent. So that's going to be the weapon here in this build. Now, because these stabs do almost no damage, right? These are support builds, and because they do almost no damage, we're going to be looking for additional damage everywhere we can get it. So we're going to be going with the Mage Cow. And the Mage Cow is going to give you that poison, that coats your weapon with poison. Your next auto attack will poison the enemy, and it'll deal a moderate amount of damage over the next 5 seconds. And again, we're going to be looking for as much damage as possible here on this. Everywhere else, we're going to take attack speed. Okay, so for your passive here, we're going to go with aggression for the extra 3.5% damage. Then we're going to go into the Stalker Jacket. Now the Stalker Jacket's actually a ton of extra damage. It's going to give you that little bit of AoE because most of your attacks are single target. So we're going to be rocking the electric field here on the Stalker Jacket. Most of you are probably really familiar with this. And then we're going to be taking the increased attack speed. We're not so worried about cooldowns on this build. This build is not a speed clear build. It will get the job done, but you're not going to be just flying through dungeons with this. But if you need to level your stabs up, your quarterstaff up, then this is definitely a good build to use. So rock that attack speed there on your passive, and then for the boots, you can really pick any boots you want. I actually like Raging Blink or the Refreshing Sprint. Now Raging Blink's really decent because you get that additional 15% damage. You time this with your E and you'll have a really good smash. It's for 4 seconds, so if you can time it with an E and a W, you're going to be doing a pretty sweet extra amount of damage there. And that's on the Stalker boots. So again, we're looking for as much extra damage as possible, and that's why we've chose these. Now for the cape, we're actually going to be rocking the Thetford cape for this, and of course for the food, we're going to be rocking the clam soup and the best poisons you can afford. Don't rock out tier 8 poisons in tier 4 dungeons. You're just not going to get paid back for the poisons that you're using. So if you have to rock tier 4 poisons or even tier 6 poisons, that's perfectly fine. I just have tier 8s up here for display. And then that's going to be your dungeon build. I'll go ahead and show you guys a quick clip of this in action. Enjoy. Alright, that was a pretty sweet chest, right? I mean, we got paid over 100k for that chest. That keeper cape alone was worth about 100k. Really sweet chest, especially in a tier 4 dungeon. You got to be happy about that. Alright, so also, since this is the set that I like, and I actually think that some of you will like, I'm going to throw a beginner set up here for some lucky guild member. If you are just starting the game, don't forget to look us up, Magic and Gathering, and I'll have you a sweet little dungeon set up there. Just come find the Easter egg here on the guild island. You can look up Magic and Gathering as a guild. We're a beginner guild. We've got tier 4 islands and things. Look us up if you're joining the game. There's a link in the description box if you've never played the game. And there's everything you need to get started if you want to play a staff. So just come find the egg. You guys can see it. It's right here at the southeast corner, or just due south of the guild hall. Come find the egg, collect your loot. It's there for any guild member. So if you are starting out, by all means, go enjoy that. All right, so our next build here is going to be the gank build. This is not really a solo gank build. I have seen people solo with it, but those people are a lot higher spec than a beginner. This is the double-bladed staff. Pretty sweet staff, but you're going to want the best poison you can get because you're trying to dismount or at least slow those mounts down. You've got a lot of speed and mobility. So let's jump into the staff in general. We're going to be rocking the cartwheel for our Q. We're going to be rocking the stun run for our W. And then, of course, we've got the crescent slash, which is probably one of the coolest animations of any skill in this game. And then we're going to be, again, just using the passive that's available to us. But this is actually a really good passive for PvP because every 5 normal attacks, you're going to be stunning your opponent. And that's absolutely terrific. But stun run's great because you're going to get that 30% increased movement speed for 5 seconds, along with your next auto attack will do damage. You do need to pay attention that if you're getting close to hitting the enemy here, you don't use this until you're getting close to tagging. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on that stun. And it's pretty easy to get to the enemy. We're going to be using the poison yet again. So poison with aggression on your mage cow. And this is just for additional damage. You're going to need that additional damage because most of the time you're going to spend everything you got to get to the enemy, and then you need to make sure that that one auto attack will do a stun and it will poison the enemy. And then of course you can throw your poison pot at them after that, and you're going to have them super slowed, but you've got some really good ways to close the distance here, and I'll show you that cool E I was talking about. Check this out. Look at that. You just leap across the screen and do a huge slash in the direction that you leap. It's pretty sweet. Cartwheel is not bad either. You get to flip around. I mean, if you're wanting to be a monk, this is almost a ninja. Look at this. Huge leaps, spinning around. It's great. So let's move on into the jacket really quick. Alright, for the jacket we're just using ambush on the assassin's jacket along with the additional damage. Now we're not worried about attack speed in this build, okay? So in the last build we were worried about attack speed. We want to hit as often as possible. In this build we're worried about we're only going to get a few hits in, and we need every one of those hits to count as much as possible. So we're going to be rocking the increased damage in this build. So that's one of the reasons for the assassin's jacket. It is the leather jacket with the max, with 30% increased attack bonus, physical attack bonus, and magic attack bonus. So this is as much extra damage as you're going to be able to get out of a piece of leather armor, and that's one of the main reasons for the assassin's jacket. But in open world, when you're able to go invisible, that is absolutely key as well. In case they do turn and fight on you, you're going to have the ability to say, hey, do I want to get into this fight or do I not want to get into this fight? And ambush is going to give you that option. And that's also something you need to know. This build is not meant to stand there and go toe-to-toe with pretty much any class. This is the chaser. You're supposed to catch the enemy, and that's also one of the reasons we're using rush on the hunter's shoes. Now this increases your movement speed by 120% and the duration of your crowd control abilities by 35% for 3 seconds. Now you do have to hit them within that 3 seconds, but this is a lot of speed. I mean, you move very fast, and paired that with your jump, you can cover a lot of ground really quick. So when you slash them with a crescent slash, they're going to be slowed by 50%. That's also great. You're going to do a ton of damage to their mount, and that's pretty much the idea. You tag and slow them down. The rest of your gank crew comes rolling up, and it's just over for them. Now, again, that Bridge Watch Cape is also going to help you, slow the enemy, because they're going to be slowed by another 50%, and their damage is going to be reduced by 50%, which is really, really good if they do turn to attack you. So with this build, though, we're more worried about cooldowns. We're going to be, if you get into higher assassin's jackets, you're going to have access to the cooldowns, and when you're no longer a beginner, you really won't need me to tell you which passive to use, but I would actually use more cooldown reduction than I would, the extra damage. But as a beginner in the stabs, you're not going to have access to that. So we're just going to keep going with the balanced mine here. So again, rush on the boots, ambush on the jacket, poison on the helmet. We're going to be using cartwheel, stun run, and then that's pretty much the gist of this set. Also, you're probably going to want the best poison you can get a hold of, and then that's basically your gank set there. Now, next up is one of my favorite combos in the game, and this is a really sweet combo, but we normally see it with a great axe, but this is one of the other few builds that could actually use this combo, and this is the Specter Jacket Warrior Boots combo. Now, again, we're going to be a dismount build where this is for group ganking. So we're going to be rocking the exact same thing on the staff with the cartwheel, the stun run, this crescent slash, and then stunning strike. So the weapon's not going to change here for this build, but we are going to be changing our gear. Alright, so first off, we've got the Keeper Cape, and the Keeper Cape says that we're going to get an additional 50% damage once our health drops below 70%. Now, I'm not going to be able to show you this here because I'm not going to be able to get into combat, but it's going to be a ton of damage. Alright, so we're going to be rocking the Specter Jacket with self-ignition, and we're going to be using balanced mine for as much damage as possible. We're going to be trying to dismount the horse, the cat, whatever. This build is only slightly slower than the Great Axe build. So we're going to be going with the Warrior's Work Boots, and this has Motivating Pain. Increases your movement speed by 50% and your max load by 200%. We're not worried about that max load. Every time you take damage, your movement speed is increased by another 30%. And that'll stack up to 3 times. So if you can take damage 3 times while Motivating Pain is active, you're going to have 140% increased movement speed just off of that. All right, and pair that with your stun run, giving you an additional 30%. That's going to take us on up there, and that's a ton of movement speed, guys. It is very, very fast. But again, this is dangerous. This build is very dangerous, but it's just a super fun build to play, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. But because we are burning ourselves with our Specter Jacket, we're going to be rocking a different hood. Now, we normally run the Hunter's Hood when you're running the Great Axe with this build. You normally run the Hunter's Hood for the reflect, so when they do finally get dismounted and they start opening up on you, you can hit reflect on them as you're moving back towards your healer or towards your buddies. This one's going to be a little bit different. We're just gonna kind of turtle up and wait for our buddies to get there. And the reason we do it this way with this particular build is because we've got a stun. All right, so we're going to be using the ice block on the cleric cow, and we're going to be using aggression. Now, the reason for this is when you finally catch them, you're going to have stun run available, and this is going to be one of the last buttons you push as you're getting close to the enemy, other than, of course, your crescent slash. So you'll jump, you'll get the crescent slash off, and that'll slow them and do a ton of damage to their mount. With then with your stun run, you're going to be able to stun them in place, and then you're just going to ice block and freeze right there on the spot and continue to burn. I'll quickly show you guys how that works, and then I'm also going to show you how the food portion of this works. So we'll do this first without food, and we'll show you the importance of using soup in this build. So we're gonna ignite ourselves. We're gonna hit our run speed, and then once we get close, we'll leap to the enemy, cartwheel a little bit, stun them, and ice block. Now the ice block will make us take no damage. We'll ice block right on top of them, and that's kind of how that's going to work. It's really, really sweet. But I want to show you guys the importance of the soup for this build. Now just get you a plain tier 5 soup, or fish if you want to just eat the tier 7 catfish. That works as well. But we're going to go ahead and soup up here. Soup up, yeah, that's right, get soupa. Here we go. So this you're going to find is quite interesting, and this actually is used to help keep your cape, right? So until you actually get into combat, you're not going to start dropping on damage, so you won't proc your cape. Remember, our cape procs at our cape's going to proc at 70% when our health drops below 70%. So that's when we're going to get all of our additional damage. And the soup is going to help us keep that. So watch our health. You seen how low our health got earlier? Now this is out of combat health regeneration, right? Out of combat health regeneration is going to make sure that you're not actually burning until you get to the enemy. Now you are taking damage, so you will be able to proc your boots so that you will have that super run speed. But this is out of combat health regeneration, so your health is not going to drop until you finally either tag a mob or tag your opponent, and that's when the damage is going to start going down, which at that point hopefully the rest of your combos went off, and as soon as you drop below 70%, then you can hit that ice block and you'll be burning with the additional damage, but you're not taking any of that damage while you have your enemy stunned in this. It's pretty sweet, and this is one of the few builds I have found that is actually viable to run the Specter Jacket Quarry Boots combo. So if you guys are interested in running that, definitely check it out. It's just a really sweet build. So let's move on to our next build here. We'll put our carrot and stuff. Oh, and for the potion, you're probably going to want a healing potion because things get a little bit hairy out there, right? Alright, so this next one, but this is the Soul Scythe. Now we're going to be rocking the beef stew for that additional 13.5% damage. Everything's about damage here, and this entire build is built around the demon cape. So of course, if you can afford a better demon cape, then by all means go ahead and get a better demon cape. If you can't afford a better demon cape, use the runes, use the souls, the relics that you're getting out of your solo dungeons to upgrade your current demon cape. So what you'll do here is you're going to hold your auto attack. You're not just going to jump in with your auto attack in this build, and that's because we've still got cartwheel, we've still got stun run, we've got tornado. And the tornado is the big one here. Alright, this creates a tornado and shoots it in the chosen direction. Enemies hit by the tornado will receive some damage, but more than anything else, they'll be pulled into the air for 2 seconds, ignoring crowd control, resistance, and duration. When the enemies are in proximity to the tornado, they will be slowed by 80%. So this really helps you catch people. This pairs pretty well with just nuke builds in your Hailgates, 2v2 Hailgates. I've seen this in 2v2 Hailgates. I've seen it in quite a few other things. For the helmet here, we're going to be rocking Growing Rage. Growing Rage, as long as you don't deal damage, you're going to get an increased stack of damage. So that's just going to increase the damage of your cape, and that's what this build's all about. We're just going to keep like building up as much additional damage as possible, so that when we finally do hit that auto attack, we're going to be just doing tons of damage with the cape. So what you'll do here is you'll also be running the Druid robes, and this has obsessive burst on it. Now that's cloth, and that is going to make you a little bit squishy, But with the cloth robes, we're doing an additional 48% damage. We're going to take every piece of additional damage as we can possibly get here, so we're definitely going to be on aggression. We're not worried about attack speed, cast modifiers, or energy reduction. We want the 8% extra damage. You want to stack as much damage into this build as possible because it's kind of an all-in combo. You're going all in on the Demon Cape here. The Hellion shoes are really good because sometimes you need to kite a little bit while you're building your stacks and you don't want to actually do damage until it's time to go in. So I like the Hellion shoes with the mark of sacrifice. This will make you invisible for 2 seconds, and after 2 seconds you'll dash to the marked target. You can also target an ally, not just the enemy. So if you have a buddy who's also running Hellion shoes, they start casting theirs on the enemy in front of them, you start casting on them, and you can leap 2 or 3 screens across the map to catch up to your buddy who will then be on the opponent. It's really sweet, but this is not a cheap build, guys. First off, a 4.1. Everything here is 4.1, so that's what I'm talking about in the prices. These soul scythes are anywhere between 70 and 80k. The helmet for this build is about 160 to 180k. The boots here are another 70 to 80k. The only thing that you're going to get away cheap on is your druid robes. Druid robes aren't really that expensive. Your demon capes are going to be anywhere between 100k and 700k, depending on how good of a demon cape you want. So this is not a cheap build. I don't actually recommend this build for beginners, but this is something to look forward to as you do level up your staffs and you start getting into an artifact staff. Also, this is sometimes considered viable for GVGs. I wouldn't wear this particular build, but the weapon itself, or not GVGs, but ZVZs. I wouldn't wear this build, but a Soul Scythe in general is viable for ZVZs to be able to cast your tornado through the clump. Really quick, I will show you guys the rotation. We're going to start with Obsessive Burst here, so we're going to hit R and then we're going to hit D. And then after that, we're going to just cartwheel somewhere without doing damage, stun run. Then we'll lock to the opponent with F, and then as soon as you teleport to the opponent, you'll hit spacebar to do the auto attack, followed up with an E that will knock them up in the air. I'll show you really quick how this works and how much damage you can get off of this single combo, and then from there you really only need a little bit of extra damage to finish off your opponent. You can do that either with a poison. Here we're running health pots, but if you want to just throw a poison in on that to do the additional damage, that should be able to clean everything up. That is the Soul Scythe build, and don't worry about not being able to stack your Obsessive Burst too high. You're just wanting to get it up as high as possible. And again, this is all based on the Demon Cape, so the better Demon Cape that you have access to, the more likely you're going to be able to finish your opponent. Alright, last but not least here, this is a very fun build. This is the Budget Ironclad. Now, for those of you that are looking into Ironclad for GVGs, then you don't need my video, as this is a beginner guide and there's never going to be a beginner in a GVG. So don't worry about that. This is a budget arena build. The entire build, there's no artifacts in the build. It's a very cheap weapon to use. And you guys are going to absolutely love it. So we're going to be using this is the Knockback King. We've got Cartwheel here, which of course knocks the enemies back. We've got Stun Run to stun them off of the point. In arenas, you're trying to capture 3 points. So Stun Run will help you knock them off the point. And then of course Hurricane. You spin around for up to 3 seconds, hitting enemies in a 5-meter radius, dealing 75 physical damage every 0.5 seconds. Enemy players hit are knocked back by 5.8 meters. This just knocks people everywhere. Against mobs though, against creatures, it just interrupts spell casting, so they can't cast spells, but it won't knock them all over the place. So you can level this up in a Fame Farm group without people being too mad at you. Just take Cartwheel off, right? All right, so that is of course the weapon Now we're going to be moving on to the Assassin's Hood. Now, the Assassin's Hood is just for meditation, right? We are going to be taking the increased damage here. If you want to run with the increased attack speed, that's fine. You're not going to be doing any real damage in the first place, so it's just really not going to matter. I just go for the increased damage because the few times that I do get hits in, I want them to be as powerful as possible to help my team out. Meditation, though, will reduce the cooldowns. So, while channeling, all spells on cooldown will recover much faster. The full channel lasts 3 seconds and can shorten cooldowns by up to 15 seconds. That is a lot of cooldown reduction. So, what I like to do is after I use my chest piece, and we'll show you that really quick, then when I'm safely behind the wind wall, go ahead and use my meditation to reset my cooldowns. So with your chest piece here, we've got conjures a wind wall in front of you lasting 4 seconds, which knocks back all enemies hit by it. Now, a lot of you have probably seen a wind wall. We're also going to be using, incoming damage is reduced, and then there's no point in threat in an arena, so we're just going to use Spirit Crush. Now, I know Spirit Crush has no effect against players, but neither does threat generation, so the additional passive here on the armor is just not going to be beneficial. So Knight's Armor for the chest, for the wind wall, and then because you might want to quickly move from one point to another, we're using the soldier boots. You can use pretty much any boots that you want here. It's not really that important which boots you do use. I did, however, pick plate boots to be a little bit tankier, as we are sacrificing one of our pieces of plate, so we're not getting the extra defense there. But the 2.4% defense here off of just some soldiers boots is pretty sweet, and Wanderlust is one of the longest movement speeds in the game. It will get you further than most other movement speeds. So the idea here is you will be putting a wind wall around the point, and then from there you get to whirlwind around, knocking anyone anywhere remotely close away from the point that you want. And then of course you have the extra knockback with cartwheel, along with your stun run, so that once you actually get them out of the point, you can stun them outside the point, and then that will put you on target. That will allow you to capture the point. So again, we'll hit the wind wall, and knock some people around. At that point, after the wind wall, we'll go ahead and reset our cooldowns so that we can get back to protecting our point. So I will show you guys a little bit of this in action. Couldn't seem to get a decent arena team, so even though we were losing, I was doing my best to keep them off the point. It's a lot of fun to play if you're playing in arenas. The Ironclad is a ton of fun. So for the food, though, we're going to be rocking just some cheap ill stew, right? Don't go pay 50k a piece for ill stew for arenas. You don't even actually have to have food for arenas. For the potions, we're just going to be running some tier 5 resistance potions, so if you are targeted, you become super tanky. The other option on the boots is if you want to run the Guardian boots. Those are also plate, and they will give you gig. A lot of people call it gig, but that's gigantify. So your health will be doubled, and that just makes you almost impossible to kill. It's more protection, but you're really tanky, and you pretty much don't need that. For the cape, though, we're going to be rocking the Martlock cape. The Martlock cape, once you take damage when you're below 25% health, your defenses are increased by 50% for 5 seconds, which will really save you. So that's the Ironclad build. That is all 5 of our builds. I hope you guys did enjoy. Don't forget to come find the Easter egg if you're in the guild, or if you're wanting to get started playing Albion. Then by all means look up Magic and Gathering. You can find us in the guild finder. Send a request to join. We'll get you in the guild, and it's a good place to get started until you can find your permanent home here in Albion. If you've never played Albion, don't forget to check the link in the description box below. I also want to thank Magic Hefe, one of my patrons who sponsored this event. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the staff build. My name is Livestream. We'll see you next time.